one senator, Bernie Sanders, in it. Like, so among the party, we often assign
in the Senate,
yes, it has more. But I think that's where you're seeing the indicators that I think the swing to the right is anytime progress is moving, people struggle with what was, what is, where they're going, and I think that would be the only way I think he's tipping right, because I know center is true. I think the country is much more moderate.
If America wanted a progressive candidate, there were plenty of options, right? They selected Joe Biden because he is known as a bridge builder, so that can bridge that gap. And he was the opposite of Trump. They wanted Trump out. Right, but he's also known, that's why you saw Republicans voting for him, because he can bridge that gap and reach across the aisle. But I don't know, I think we are a centrist country. I think that we just keep getting candidates that are on the fringes, and I'll continue to say that.
I don't think Manchin is right. I don't think that this country is center. I don't think this country is center right. I don't think that the majority, again, of independents are truly independent. I mean, the study has found that exposing people who identify with the party to news coverage of partisan battles make them more likely to identify as dependent, and that roughly 3 in 4 independents still lean toward one of the two major political parties. I know Anna just heard that according to Pew, 49% of independents vote Democratic, which means 51% do vote Republican. The other thing I want to say is that, this Biden's Build Back Better framework is extremely popular. 61% of all likely voters support the plan. The plan is long-term care investments, expanding Medicare to include hearing aids, housing investments, child care investments, clean energy and conservation jobs, universal pre-K. The majority of Americans want
How is that a left
and those
right
are
situation?
It's not.
Child care, it's not. How is that right? I don't get that. Yeah.
They don't want to tax the billionaires. They all agreed, somehow in DC, they all agreed on that. And I don't know who they're protecting there. There's only, I think, Anna quoted 700 in the country. And he can't seem to get Congress to agree that billionaires should pay their fair share.
What you just said, that everybody in DC agreed on that. I think most people in DC and around the country are okay taxing the billionaires. But there's 2 senators who have this outsized level of power, Manchin and Sinema, right, who don't feel okay with it. Republicans are okay with taxing. No, I'm talking about Democrats. I mean, listen, Republicans are not, the Build Back Better plan is not going to pass with Republican votes.
Exactly.
And so,
Don't they want to have a
you gotta have any Democrat votes, and you don't have those right now. And so, Republicans don't want expanded talking. Don't they want hearing? What about hearing aids for old people? What about, expanded child credit? What about that? They don't want to have that in this country. I think most people want that. I don't think they want a victory for Biden. I think they understand that being able to develop American is going to be a big political win for him. And sometimes the people listen. News break. People put politics and parties over country. And we see that happen every single day. And I don't think that people are very concerned about the price tag and what this is going to mean in terms of future debt for this country. And what they're going to settle. Well, they have the money if they tax the right people, and we've done that. FDR changed the country after Hoover was destroyed it, and he didn't even have the money. Listen, they made the money. I agree with Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett says, and I agree with him. He should not be paying less tax rate than his secretary. Exactly. It is abominable. This is happening. And they should fix it.
And Trump inherited surplus. He left us with a tremendous, as usual. That's what happens to Republicans.
Always leave you with a deficit, and then the Democrats have to clean it up, and then they leave with a surplus, and then the Republicans spend everything again, and nobody gets anything. I don't understand this stuff.
But look,
I really don't. We'll be right back.
So true.
Moving behind the scenes of the moments that made View history, to stories the co-hosts have never revealed before. A special new podcast series from The View is taking you behind the table. What was it like for you to be pregnant while doing this job? It was Whoopi that knew before I, because I sat next to her, and she's like, honey, you're all white. She said, I said, I have to tell you something. She goes, I already know. This week's episode is out now, featuring Abby Huntsman and Sarah Haynes. Find your conversation by searching The View on your favorite podcast apps.
all about the holiday.
I was able to find everything on Overstock.
Literally feels like Christmas.
I had to get the accent pillows, y'all.
What is he? Summertime!
Free shipping on everything.
I love the app.
I'm about to get everybody's holiday presents on this.
Posting for the holidays? Let Overstock be your partner and cheer. Get everything you need to make the most wonderful time of year the most wonderful yet. Overstock, where quality costs less. For exclusive holiday savings, download the Overstock app. Airwick scented oils are infused with natural essential oils to create authentic seasonal scents that fill your home with holiday spirit all season long. Connect to nature this season. Don't settle. Start your day with Secret. Secret stops odor causing sweat 3 times more, and the Pro Vitamin B5 formula is gentle on skin. With Secret, outlast anything. No sweat. Secret. No sweat.
Some things are good to know, like where to find the cheapest gas in town, and which supermarket gives you the most bang for your buck. Something else that's good to know? If you have Medicare and Medicaid, you may be able to get more healthcare benefits through Humana Medicare Advantage Plan. Call the number on your screen now and speak to a licensed Humana sales agent to see if you qualify. Learn about plans that could give you more healthcare benefits than you have today. Depending on the plan you choose, you could have your doctor, hospital, and prescription drug coverage in one convenient plan. From Humana, a company with 60 years of experience in the healthcare industry. You'll have lots of doctors and specialists to choose from. And if you have Medicare and Medicaid, a Humana plan may give you other important benefits. Depending on where you live, they could include dental, vision, and hearing coverage. You may also get rides to plan-approved locations, home-delivered meals, or inpatient hospital stay, a monthly allowance for purchasing approved healthy food and beverages, plus an allowance for health and wellness items. Everything from over-the-counter medications and vitamins to first aid items and personal care products. Best of all, if you have Medicare and Medicaid, you may qualify for multiple opportunities throughout the year to enroll. So if you want more for Medicare, call the number on your screen now to speak with a licensed Humana sales agent. Learn about Humana plans that could give you more healthcare benefits, including coverage for prescription drugs, dental care, eye exams and glasses, hearing aids, and more. A licensed Humana sales agent will walk you through your options, answer any questions you have, and if you're eligible, help you enroll over the phone. Call today and we'll also send this free guide. Humana, a more human way to healthcare.
Everyone needed Short Max protein with 30 grams of protein. Those who tried me felt more energy in just 2 weeks. Here, I'll take that.
Get Short Max protein with 30 grams of protein, 1 gram of sugar, and nutrients to support immune health.
New from #1 New York Times best-selling author Janet Ivanovich. Stephanie Plum is on the trail of a dangerous fugitive. But is she in over her head? She may be facing a new kind of villain, but she never misses her target. Game On by Janet Ivanovich.
Instantly clear everyday congestion with Vicks Sinex Daily for fast, drug-free relief. Vicks Sinex. Instantly clear everyday congestion. And try Vicks Sinex Children's Saline. Safe and gentle relief for children's noses. House, clean. Cabinet, handled. Bathroom, tiled. Get started on your next home project at Angie.com or download the Angie mobile app today. Make your home an Angie home. Angie, and done.
I am the everyday killer. He got a letter signed with his happy face, smile, 2 eyes. He's teasing the police, like teasing the firemen.
When my father's behavior became more erratic, creepy, I just think take a break for a bit.
2022 on ABC.
Get on your feet for country music's biggest night.
The CMA Awards, with collaborations you'll only see on this stage. The CMA Awards live Wednesday on ABC.
So one of the NFL's biggest superstars, Aaron Rodgers, tested positive for COVID, and to try to talk his way around the fact that he went for a homeopathic treatment instead of getting the vaccine a few months ago. Take a look.
Are you vaccinated? What's your stance on vaccinations?
Yeah, I've been immunized. There's guys on the team that haven't been vaccinated. I think it's a personal decision. I'm not going to judge those guys. There's guys who've been vaccinated with contracted COVID. So it's an interesting issue that I think we're going to see played out the entire season.
And ESPN's Stephen A. Smith didn't mince words about this when the news broke. Watch.
Aaron Rodgers is a liar. Period. He lied to his team with a smirk on his face. And regarding a matter that is very, very serious. What else you been lying about? Because you did it with such ease, such fluidity. I mean, I'm saying, it was just very, very impressive. And it was slick as hell.
Well, the NFL says that they're investigating whether Rodgers violated protocols. But let me just say that the guy is in a huddle 6 days a week, breathing on people, and directly exposing his teammates to COVID. Does Typhoid Mary ring a bell, anybody?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a job where you're away from people. You're right on top of each other in that game.
And that's the thing. It's like you have, athletes that are unvaccinated, like Kyrie Irving, but he has admitted to not being vaccinated, and he's not playing, and he's losing money to make whatever stand it is, and it's his personal choice and his personal freedom. And I can respect that in a sense. But this guy did lie. Apparently, he said he was immunized, and I guess the homeopathic treatment from his doctor, MSNBC reported that it's some sort of nasal spray that he's sticking up his nose, and he thinks that is protecting him from COVID-19. I mean, how can you put other lives at risk?
To lie about it is what's harder. If you gauge people, a lot of times you have to ask when they're going to your house, or you kids, schools, the workplace, you say, we know here that anyone in here right now is vaccinated with a mask on. If you are lying to me, you're putting me at risk to make a personal decision, which we keep talking about, a personal decision about my right and my life.
I also think there's got to be a level playing field. Oh my God, did you just catch my pun?
That's a good one.
Nice. It can't be that because you're one of the biggest stars, those rules don't apply to you, right? This guy has a $134 million 4-year deal. And I remember how the NFL did. You talk about this all the time. But Kaepernick took a knee.
Well, nobody's going to die from Colin Kaepernick taking a knee.
Nobody was going to catch a pandemic disease that's continuing to ravage the world from taking a knee. And so, if he's violating rules, if he is lying to his fans, to his colleagues, to his staff, if we lie,
she's giving her a
I DeSantis though, really? I don't think DeSantis is elected. I don't think he lied. I think because we all heard the same thing. Just wait. We all heard the same clip. They said, were you vaccinated? He said, I was vaccinated. Okay, it was me. He was glad everybody, and so the
intention of this need is lying.
Okay, but I'm just saying, he said I was immunized, okay? And I love Aaron Rodgers, but the problem that I have with this is the NFL does not require their athletes to get vaccinated. But if you're unvaccinated, you have to divulge that. You have to say, I'm not vaccinated. You have to wear a mask. But this wear a mask. And I'll tell you what he's not doing. He hasn't been doing it. Okay, and he also went to a party, and when you're groups of more than 3, you have to wear a mask. It has been tested every single day. I just think, and then I'll say, the nasal spray isn't working, Sonny. The nasal spray isn't working. Well, maybe he should lie. He's a liar, and my question is, what is the NFL going to do? Because the consequences of Colin Kaepernick kneeling and standing up for social justice, and he is not playing in the league. I want to know if they're going to let this guy. That is the story. This guy, the team lying to everyone. Like, the quarterback is the worst one. You're supposed to guide your team through everything, and he is lying. We'll probably lose the draft pick, and we'll find them. The worst thing done is just death on my interest in football. Yeah, I will be right back.
A lot of people think dealing with COPD is a walk in the park. If I had something to help me breathe better, everything would be fun and nice. But I still have bad days, flare-ups, which can permanently damage my lungs. My lungs need protection against flare-ups. So, it's time to get real. Because in the real world, our lungs deserve the real protection of Breast Treat. Breast Treat gives you better breathing, symptom improvement, and flare-up protection. It's the first and only COPD medicine proven to reduce flare-ups by 52%.
Breast Treat won't replace a rescue inhaler for sudden breathing problems. It is not for asthma. Tell your doctor if you have a heart condition or high blood pressure before taking it. Don't take Breast Treat more than prescribed. Breast Treat may increase your risk of thrush, pneumonia, and osteoporosis. Call your doctor if worsened breathing, chest pain, mouth or tongue swelling, problems urinating, vision changes, or eye pain occur.
For real protection, ask your doctor about Breast Treat.
Start your day with Crest 3D White. And from mochachinos to Merlot, your smile will always be brilliant. Crest 3D White Brilliance. 100% stain removal, 24-hour stain resistance to lock in your whitest smile. Crest, the #1 toothpaste brand in America.
Welcome to Evermerge.
Whoa! Coming in hot!
Discover a world where your mind can run free. And where merging creates amazing.
Did you see that? No, dropping hot clothes.
Where will your imagination take you? Evermerge. Download now.
It's delightful. Seriously? But it's a total train wreck.
It's obvious that you put a lot of work into it. She's probably happy because she found out Honey Nut Cheerios can have lower cholesterol. Does anyone want to go on a bike ride?
From unexpected finds to classic favorites, find the gifts they've been dreaming of with Macy's Holiday Gift Finder.
Most bladder leak pads are similar. Until Always Discreet invented a pad that protects differently with 2 rapid dry layers for strong protection that's always discreet. Question your protection. Try Always Discreet.
1 week,
7 minutes, dozens of concerts.
thousands of country music fans.
And me.
1 week in the life of country music stars.
It's Monday night on ABC.
I lost my son due to extreme negligence. A mother's instinct just flared up in me. And that's why I reached out to Morgan & Morgan. When I saw my attorney come forward on my behalf, it was amazing. He went right after them, and he showed them that they were wrong. I just want to tell Morgan & Morgan thank you for representing me and bringing justice for my son.
Introducing Assurance Wireless Unlimited. If you qualify for the federal government's temporary emergency broadband benefit, you'll get a free smartphone, free unlimited data, free unlimited texts, free unlimited minutes, plus 10 gigabytes of free hotspot data, all free for a limited time. See if you qualify at assurancewireless.com/unlimited. Apply now.
I'm attorney Mike DePasquale. If you've been hurt in a car wreck, you need help now.
I had a broken arm after being run off the road.
You can hire my team of experienced lawyers right now with no upfront cost. We don't get paid unless we win your case.
I hired Mike and his team, and they got me $100,000.
In my firm, we never charge an upfront fee. If you've been hurt in a car wreck, don't wait. Call me now. I've got this.
Call 314-888-4444.
Oh,
So listen to this one. This is a good one. Apparently, the position you sleep in with your partner can reveal a lot about your sex life. According to expert and author of the Sleep Journal, Anne Marie Boyan, whoever that is, I sleep on my stomach in front of I was on 3 layers of coverage with a dog on top of that. Yeah. So let's not say it's not my set.
That thing we can say here on daytime TV.
That's not good. It's not good, Joy. No. I didn't get to read all of this, but it says if you sleep on your stomach, and especially if both of you do it, it's not a sign of intimacy. As none of the body parts touch. It's a sign of protection of the front of the body, so which could indicate vulnerability, lack of control, anxiety, and there's a lack of sexual trust. What do you want to tell me, Joy? Okay. Anything you want to tell me? That person. Who even was this person? Never heard of her. You have a lack of sexual trust in your relationship. I have enough sex, okay? It's enough. Listen, I'm with you. Let me tell you what mine does look like. Do we have the picture? Oh,
don't know, man. But, did you get the message about the storm? Okay.
I'm not going to support this interrupt media, but it's gotta be good.
Sarah, you're a toucher. No, but I'm called a Liberty lover, so we start the night back to back, but separated, and then through the night we do the flip flop like this, and that indicates security and connection, and that each person enjoys their independence, loves reuniting to share their, okay, cheesy expletive here, but I do think that I also don't like heat in bed, and any body you touch, the only one I'll take is a dog. A dog heat, no, a human heat, get on your side of it. If you want to know what's on your head, yes.
Just hang on, for every dollar, get that taken care of. Alright, let's see where we're at.
This sounds like Kama Sutra.
This position is where couples fall asleep touching, but they unravel towards their own side of the bed as the night goes on.
So they pull up to bed.
This is the best of both worlds. It means intimacy and independence.
Can I tell you a time
of a couple of
Tell me a joke. I have a child.
It sounds like Manny's hostage.
This conversation reminded me of a joke.
I got a guy, snap happens. Cause I got snap, cause I got talk. Cause I got snap happens, I got AT&T for $12 a month. I don't want to rearrange. They're rearranging my answers. I tried to get like AT&T, give me a landline, but they want to tie it all up, so I got this Lifeline phone.
Okay, so you guys, when we moved to South
So I do have a Lifeline phone, I got another one on the way, they did some
there's this thing called
Mickey Mouse changeover.
where you have
And
a phone,
I got a
and
day, sent me a paper, and I got
so
it on the way.
okay, so here's my husband wake surfing
All right.
for hours.
Sorry to do that.
I posted this on Facebook, not really thinking.
Okay, I broke my garden down a little bit and brought my herbs inside.
Recognized at the restaurant we go to.
So like people eat nuts, you know, feel
I
free.
saw you and your son's friends. We tried to do it. He lives.
Don't know what this son, everything else is in a pot. So it's not a pot, it's pretty tired, get the weed wet, you know?
At that time, I had 8 million. That's 17
Alright.
million views.
So Don, I think that's,
It's so hard to do. But
Alright,
that's
we'll
the
see
first
ya.
time he did it. Really safe, moving athlete. That was the first time he tried.
Sarah, I'm not particularly impressed. I'd like to see him wake surfing with me on his shoulder.
I risked my life. If I was caught, they would have put a bullet in my head.
That would have been one of those every acid domestic terrorists ever in the United States.
He put himself in jeopardy for us.
Doug.
You got a couple of boogies on your six lever. They need customized car insurance from Liberty Mutual, so they only pay for what they need. What do you say we see what this bird can do?
I'm not getting you a helicopter.
It's like a walking kid. Only pay for what you need. Liberty, 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 liberty.
Can Dove stop 98% of daily hair damage? Sandra treats one lock of hair with Dove. Glowing areas represent hair damage. Dove precisely repairs, so there are almost no signs of visible damage. Dove Intensive Repair, #1 beauty brand not tested on animals.
Do you believe in magic? In a young girl's heart, how the music can free her whenever it starts and it's magic. Do you believe in magic?
Does your plug-in fade too fast? Try Febreze Fade to Fly plug. It has built-in technology to digitally control how much scent is released to smell first day fresh for 50 days. La 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 la. Meet the digital beauty family with pressure cookers that steam ovens that whip up and away, grills that bring outdoor flavors to the noise, and blenders that spin up healthy eating. Ninja Food, be proud of what you make.
Welcome to the lifestyle of the smart and savvy. When it comes to saving money, the Marshalls are masterful. But back in the day, that was not the case. Today, savings is what drives them. That's why they chose Consumer Cellular.
You live and learn.
They get the same premium coverage at the nation's leading carriers for half the cost. Imagine talk, text, and data starting at $20 a month. Plus, AARP members get exclusive discounts. Switch today and get $100.
Managing type 2 diabetes?
On it. On it. It's Jardians.
Meet the people who are managing type 2 diabetes and heart risk with Jardians. Jardians is a once-daily pill that can reduce the risk of cardiovascular death for adults who also have known heart disease, so it can help save your life from a heart attack or stroke. Jardians also lowers A1C, and it may help you lose some weight.
Jardians can cause serious side effects, including dehydration, genital abuse from urinary tract infections, and sudden kidney problems. Ketoacidosis is a serious side effect that may be fatal. A rare but life-threatening bacterial infection in the skin of the perineum can occur. Stop taking Jardians and call your doctor right away if you have symptoms of this bacterial infection, ketoacidosis, or an allergic reaction. And don't take it if you're on dialysis or have severe kidney problems. Taking Jardians with a sulfonylurea or insulin may cause low blood sugar.
Lower A1C and lower risk of heart attack? Yep, they're on it with Jardians. Ask your doctor about Jardians.
After 48 wrinkles, deep skin can get uneven. But here's the good news. New Revitalift Retinol Night Cream, the first pressed cream by L'Oreal. A hygienic jar containing 2 derm-recommended ingredients, retinol plus niacinamide, pressed into a deep moisturizing night cream. This is genius. After 14 nights, wrinkles start to be less visible and skin tone looks more even. I can keep this right. New Revitalift Retinol Pressed Cream by L'Oreal Paris. Don't stress, press, because we're worth it.
Modern Family. There are big laughs. Nervous laughs. Live, love, laugh. Modern Family Nightly. Tonight at 10 on ABC 30. ABC 30 is proud to partner with DAV, Disabled American Veterans, for Sinclair Cares, supporting all veterans. Scan this QR code if you're a veteran in need of help, or if you'd like to support veterans by volunteering or donating.
Michael Jordan would be as successful without you.
Cheating May Monday.
Do you feel like he left a lot of your story out of The Last Dance on purpose?
Exclusive.
You call Michael Jordan selfish.
It's an interview everyone will be talking about Monday on Good Morning America.
ABC News has a month-long initiative called Climate Crisis Saving Tomorrow, airing across all platforms. And as world leaders meet at the UN Climate Summit in Glasgow this week, they'd be smart to listen to the next generation of activists taking the lead on this watch. On this watch. I want you to panic. I want you to feel the fear I feel every day. And then I want you to act. Perhaps no one has brought more attention and a greater sense of urgency to the climate change crisis than 18-year-old Swedish wunderkind Greta Thunberg.
The climate crisis is here and now.
And back here at home, the Thunberg effect has inspired and motivated a whole new wave of young activists. Alexandria Villaseñor was only 13 when California's disastrous campfire left her hospitalized and struggling to breathe. Determined to fight back and to make a difference, she co-founded the first global youth climate strike, mobilizing 1.6 million of her peers all over the world. Now at the age of 16, she continues that crusade, even earning an invitation to address last year's Democratic National Convention.
Climate change is impacting us now, and it's robbing my generation of the future.
19-year-old Jamie Margold experienced firsthand the dangers that accompany global warming when her hometown of Seattle was smothered in smoke from surrounding wildfires back in 2017. Jamie sued her home state of Washington for violating her constitutional rights to life, liberty, and property by failing to take adequate action on climate change, one of the many youth-led legal actions and lawsuits fought across all 50 states over the last decade.
I want the entire youth Congress, in fact, the whole U.S. government, to remember the fear and despair that my generation lives with every day, and I want you to hold on to it.
TikTok and other social media platforms have proven to be an invaluable tool for young people around the world, allowing them to stay informed, mobilized, and engaged. And no one is more effective at that than self-described eco-communicator Leah Thomas.
It's time to get real, and world leaders need to invest in BIPOC-led climate justice efforts.
She uses her Instagram account @GreenGirlLeah to spread her message of intersectional environmentalism, which advocates for both the protection of people and the planet, to 250,000 followers.
I'm taking action on climate because it's my generation that's the front line of this crisis.
20-year-old climate campaigner Ariana Khan was born and raised on the front lines of the climate emergency in Bangladesh before moving with her family to New York City, where she advocated for a bill to mandate climate education in public schools. Ariana has continued her advocacy work with Action for the Climate Emergency and is currently in Glasgow taking part in today's youth climate strike. Ariana and the rest of these climate warriors are carrying the torch for the next generation, making sure their presence is felt and their voices are heard.
Wow, those kids are impressive, right?
My kids are really concerned about this. I mean, Gabriel worked with Ted Lieu over the summer, as you guys know, I didn't tell everyone, working solely on this issue. He also traveled around the country. He was in Hawaii working on conservation. Paloma always talks about, electric cars. When she drives, she wants to drive an electric car. Gabriel made us get rid of, disposable things and K-cups and stuff like that. And I was like, but it's so convenient. He's like, it's crap for the environment. I mean, they're really worried about this.
If they're more concerned with causes, you ask any young person, and they're not looking to get paid from a job. They're more worried about the causes that they're going to back. But I think the real way to affect change is not just come to the table and say, this is what we're against. Say, here are the issues, and here are some solutions. That's how we're going to really affect true change, and I'm pulling for this.
I think they're so right. I find in this younger generation, I speak at a lot of colleges, that they're a lot less concerned with being labeled conservative or progressive, Republican or Democrat. They want to be advocates for the planet. Yes. They want to be advocates for equal rights. I really am hopeful. This new generation gives me a lot of hope for fixing.
Do you want to know what's going on in Alaska, though? I will tell you one thing that you're not going to like this. Well, so on Thursday, more than 40 countries announced an agreement to stop burning coal, okay? The United States did not sign on. And neither did China, India, or Australia. American officials abstained from the agreement, the New York Times reports, out of a fear of angering Nancy, who receives income from the coal brokerage he founded, and his son continues to run. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay? We are just the fools of Glasgow because of this. That's despicable. And you know what, John? We can look at things, that's terrible if that's happening. But if Donald Trump was president, we wouldn't even be at Glasgow. Yeah. First thing he did was take us out of the Paris Climate Accord. I'm not with Donald Trump anymore. Okay, so let's recognize then that we are in a better place than we were just a year ago.
No, but it doesn't also defend the coal companies that are paying these people. Like, let's go after the real problem here, which is that big dirty money that keeps finding its way to DC.
Okay, we'll be right back. Thank you.
Treat yourself to Feel Good Friday. We partnered with 6 small businesses to offer splurge-worthy items that are all $20 and under. Next.
Are you on Medicaid or Medicare? The U.S. government recently announced that 12.2 million citizens are eligible for additional benefits beyond what they received in the original Medicare or Medicaid.
These benefits include up to $3,500 of dental credit, up to $1,272 to spend at your local pharmacy, up to $144 added back to your Social Security check every month.
It's easy to see if you qualify.
Just call Go Medicare at 800-761-4879.
And see if you're one of over 12 million who may qualify.
For up to $3,500 of dental credit, up to $1,272 to spend at $144 added back to your Social Security check every month.
This call is 100% free with no obligation to enroll. So call today.
at 800-761-4879. That's 800-761-4879. Go Medicare. We give you more benefits.
Did you know some deodorants may not last all day? Secret works immediately and is designed to last for up to 48 hours. What's Secret? Keep it fresh. Available in over 10 amazing scents and aluminum free.
Sometimes family is the one you make. Where there's love, there's family. Ritz, a taste of love.
Probably covered in germs. Protection. Lysol to go kills 99.9% of viruses and bacteria, including the COVID-19 virus. Take trusted Lysol protection. Now on the go. Lysol, what it takes to protect.
I'm 53, but in my mind, I'm still 35. That's why I take Osteo Biflex to keep me moving the way I was made to. It nourishes and strengthens my joints for the long term. Osteo Biflex plus vitamin D for immune support.
Start the weekend off by treating yourself as we partner with 6 small businesses for indulgent products that cost $20 or less. But it's only while supplies last, so let's get shopping with Greta Monahan. So excited! So I brought you guys Wax and Wit because these are super fun candles with fantastic fragrances from a one-owned small business. And I know you love that, but I brought you 30 collections, you guys, for holiday, happy hour, and life. But Sarah, check it out. Dogs are my people. It's a fan favorite. I know, I mean, so cute. What a great gift. And I have holiday scents, you guys, that include candy pie, mulled cider, balsam and cedar, gingerbread cookie, yum, 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 and candy cane. So you can't really that. They're really pretty and easy to get. These are fun. And that's just not cute. You know, I always have to be true to self-care. So I brought you guys Spotlight. Check those out. They specialize in the seasonal sheet mask, which I love, and you guys have tried. Yeah. Also, they make perfect stocking stuffers for everyone, from office to school teachers to friends, and they don't break the bank because you choose from various sets. The face mask, hand mask, foot mask. Don't look like your feet. I mean, come on. Right. For the guys, my favorite one for the guys. It is good for the guys. And loofah mist. And also, you're going to get a great value on these sets. Plus, free shipping. Check it out. So, the original stretch lace. This turns any lace-up shoe or boot into an instant slip-on. It really keeps it right, clever. So super fashionable while still being functional. All you do is tie up your shoe as you normally would and slip your foot in it. That easy. Now, this is a great gift for everyone in your family in the house. What you'll love, Sunny, though, all ages. It includes people with mobility issues so that you can't bend over to tie your shoes, or you have arthritis, right? I can just tell you, Grant loves it. Like, everybody, you know, like really, really good. I like that. So, pocket socks. Pocket socks feature a hand-sewn zipper pocket. Look at Sarah today. So cute. Secure all your small valuables. Great for traveling, working out, outdoor events, everyday convenience. Lots of new designs for men, women, and children. This is a family. How cute are those, you guys? They're neat to love a lot in there. And now I gotta show you, not all totes are created equal. This large tote by Take Carol Accessories is incredible because not only is it simple and versatile, it has a detachable crossbody, which makes it so cool, and built-in RFID protected card sleeves. So I brought you 4 gorgeous, easy-to-gift colors. I knew Sunny would love it. Yeah, you know you're taking your one. And now, come on over here. See? Gabriel and Simone. Where would we be? We have to help reduce digital name train. Absolutely gorgeous. Gabriel. With a brand new style.
This is an ABC News special report. My life's been blessed because I've had a chance to serve my country. I've had a chance to do things that benefited my country. And when it's all over, I just hope they say it was a good soldier, you did a good job, raised a good family, and God bless it. That's all I ask for.
Honoring a patriot, General Colin Powell. Now reporting, David Muir.
Hello everyone, and thank you for joining Nation pays its final respects to General Colin Powell and a dedicated life in public service. An American trailblazer serving as the country's first Black National Security Advisor, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and Secretary of State. Regarded by so many as a man of dignity, integrity, he earned the respect of presidents and leaders from both parties. You will see many of them here at the National Cathedral in Washington. President Biden and the First Lady, Dr. Jill Biden, talking with former President Barack Obama. They have described him in recent days with extraordinary language, words. The president calling him a dear friend. Former President George W. Bush remembering him as a great public servant. He was there as well with former First Lady Laura Bush. Colin Powell was one of America's most highly regarded diplomats. His reputation admittedly damaged when he addressed the UN to advocate for the second war in Iraq. You can see former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton has arrived there. She and Bill Clinton, the former president in recent days, saying Colin Powell was a courageous soldier, a skilled commander, a dedicated diplomat, and a good and decent man. There has been much that has been said about Colin Powell, but he said it himself. He acknowledged what he called a blot on his record. That's what he told Barbara Walters years ago about that moment before the world. So it was trademark General Powell in acknowledging that would be something that he would carry with him for the rest of his life, that he hoped that people would look back at a life dedicated to this country over 4 decades of public service. He died last month at the age of 84, suffering complications from COVID while also battling multiple myeloma, a form of blood cancer, and early Parkinson's. He was fully vaccinated, he planned to get the booster, but then fell ill, was treated with Walter Reed. His wife, Alma, also battling COVID. She recovered at home and is at the service here today. Joining me here this morning, our Chief Global Affairs Correspondent and co-anchor of This Week, Martha Raddatz. And Martha, there is no question that General Powell broke barriers. He broke barriers as the first Black National Security Advisor, first Black Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, first Black Secretary of State. But he led by example. He didn't often talk about those barriers he broke.
He did not, David, and what an extraordinary career. He joined the Army in 1958, just 10 years after it had been desegregated. He was a soldier in Vietnam and rose through the ranks rapidly to be a 4-star general, as you said, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and then went into the diplomatic world. I traveled with him numerous times while he was Secretary of State, and it was right after 9/11 when he truly did bring the world together, brought the world together to go after Osama bin Laden. But Colin Powell was always grateful. I love hearing that voice at the beginning about how grateful he was, how blessed he was. He always wanted to be called general, even after he was Secretary of State. And he wanted to be called general because he was a soldier at heart and really, truly good soldier at heart. And I think that's really who Colin Powell was. He was a good man, a grateful man, and a man, as you said, David, who admitted mistakes and how extraordinary that was. He knew standing before the UN and realizing later that there was faulty intelligence, that he made a mistake, and he sat down and he told people that he accepted that mistake and carried on to do very good things in his life.
And there was an appreciation, Martha, from the American people for that acknowledgement. And you talked about his years of service, 35 years in the Army, and Colin Powell spoke about what it was like as a young man to first put on that uniform. He said it felt right.
He did. He said it felt right. It just, he fit in there. And, you know, the Army was way ahead of the nation in terms of desegregation. So Colin Powell said he felt comfortable there. He certainly experienced racism during the year, some part of it, but that's where he felt comfortable. That's what he thought his calling was. He did not want to run for president. He made that very clear. And using those words, he felt right in that uniform. He said he never felt right when he thought about running for president, as much as he was admired in this country.
And as we watched the service begin, Nightline and Byron Pitts, you know, this was uniquely an American life, born to Jamaican parents. He grew up in South Bronx. He went to school, found ROTC, and blazed his own path?
Well, David, Colin Powell's story is as authentic and inspiring as any in American history. As you said, the son of Jamaican immigrants, his parents were factory workers in New York's garment district. Parents who believed there was nothing, no playing field that education and hard work couldn't equal. So they sent both their kids to college. Colin Powell was fond of saying that he wasn't as smart as some of those Ivy League kids he worked with, but because of his quality public education, he was able to compete. And David, I think his life record would show he had far more wins than losses.
I think many people would put him up against some of those Ivy League grads any day. These are the grandchildren General Powell was so proud of. He often talked about being a grandfather. He was also a father to 2 daughters and a son, of course, after service to Michael Powell, his son, his 2 daughters as well. He'll be at the service here this morning. The grandchildren, of course, seated in that front row. I'm going to open the ceremony for them. His wife, Alma Powell, entering the cathedral. As I mentioned, she recovered in recent days from COVID as well, fully vaccinated, and a spokesperson for the family saying she will get the booster. She'll be there this morning along with daughters Linda and Ann Powell, television news producer for a time. In fact, she worked with us here at ABC News. And General Powell was once asked by the journalist Bob Woodward, who was the greatest man, woman, person you've ever known, their inner person, their moral compass, and he immediately answered, it's Alma Powell, his wife. He said, she was with me the whole time. We've been married, at that point, 58 years. And she put up with a lot, he said. She took care of the kids when I was running around. She was always there for me, and she would tell me, that's not a good idea. The general adding, she was usually right. Alma Powell joining General Powell later in life after he served his country and served at rescue all over this country, Pierre Thomas.
Indeed, David. He is best known as being the quintessential 21st century and 20th century citizen soldier. But many people may not know that he also spent a great deal of his time working with young people of color, particularly young men of color. And David, he often talked about the notion that many of them needed some extra support and they should have it because of institutional and historic racial issues, David. He believed that the American dream should be for everyone, and he put a lot of time into it, David.
Quiet work, but perhaps the most important work, General Powell, in his later years.
Congregation may stand as you are able. With faith in Jesus Christ, we receive the body of our brother Colin Luther Powell for burial. Let us pray with confidence to God, giver of life, that he will raise him to perfection in the company of the saints. Deliver your servant Colin, O sovereign Lord Christ, from all evil and set him free from every bond, that he may rest with all your saints in the eternal habitation, where with the Father and the Holy Spirit live and reign, one God, forever and ever. Amen.
Let us also pray for all who mourn, that they may cast their care on God and know the consolation of his love. Almighty God, look with pity upon the sorrows of your servants for whom we pray. Remember them, Lord, in mercy. Nourish them in patience. Comfort them with a sense of your goodness. Lift up your countenance upon them and give them peace. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
We will be hearing tributes fairly early on here this morning from the Honorable Richard Armitage. He was, of course, the former Deputy Secretary of State and a dear friend of General Powell's. Over the years, they would talk almost every day. Jonathan Carl.
They were tight. Richard Armitage was the Deputy Secretary of State. I covered Colin Powell as Secretary of State, traveled all over the world with him. and spent a lot of time with Richard Armitage, as close a friend as Colin Powell had. Deeply loyal, their friendship dated back to 1981 when they were both serving in the Reagan administration. Tight friends. Actually, Armitage said they would talk every day, maybe several times a day. And they did battle together in the State Department, often finding themselves at odds with others in the Bush administration, like Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld.
As we're watching these images here this morning, that image a moment ago of former presidents and first ladies, secretaries of state. Of course, we saw the current chairman of the Joint Chiefs there as well. And Martha Raddatz, in this moment, in a polarized country, these images are equally as powerful to see members of both parties coming forward to honor a man who in life was a Republican, but also voted for Democrats along the way, saying he was an American.
Exactly, David. He worked for presidents, Republicans, Democrats. He was a true public servant, and they often talked about that, his sacrifice and service in the military, but his public service throughout his life. And to look at those faces inside the cathedral, there's something wonderful about that when you see that on a day like today, all of them coming here to honor Colin Powell. Parties aside, you saw Dick Cheney. He was often at odds with Dick Cheney during the Iraq War and during President Bush's term. But Dick Cheney made that trip out here to honor Colin Powell as well.
And we should mention that General Powell, and chairman of the Joint Chiefs during the first Bush administration, considered an American hero of sorts with the success of the first Persian Gulf War. And as Martha alluded to, later serving in the second Bush administration, and not always seeing eye to eye with the Vice President Dick Cheney, Secretary Rumsfeld. We have seen the image there, and it's a powerful one of his wife, Alma, in the front. He so often spoke of her and the strength she gave him through the years. And it was Alma who perhaps had the loudest voice in that national debate about whether or not Colin Powell should run for president. He said ultimately he didn't want to, that he would have been a good leader, he said, but not a good campaigner. He had no interest in the political campaigning that it would take to get there. And she didn't want him to be president either. She feared for the safety, the privacy of the family. Unless we watch the casket now brought in.
I am the resurrection and the life, saith the Lord. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. And whosoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die. I know that my Redeemer liveth, that he shall stand at the latter day.
Okay.
And though this body be destroyed, yet shall I see for myself, and mine eyes shall behold, and not as a stranger. For none of us liveth to himself, and no one dieth to himself. For if we live unto the Lord. And if we die unto the Lord. Whether we live, therefore, or die, we are the Lord's. Blessed are the dead who die in the Lord. Even so saith the Spirit, for they rest from their labors.
Yeah.
And Iron Pitts, General Powell, as we know, was a man of deep faith.
He was, David. He was raised in the Episcopal Church. He was a Sunday school teacher. David, I have to say, looking at this, we're looking at one.
My name is Brandon Smith, and I'm the Dean of Washington National Cathedral. And on behalf of Mary and Buddy, the Bishop of the Diocese of Washington, Michael Curry, the presiding Bishop of the Episcopal Church, welcome. Welcome to this house of prayer for all people. It is indeed an honor for us to host this service for Colin Powell. To Mrs. Powell, Michael, Ann, Linda, and the entire Powell family, our hearts are with you and with all those across our country and indeed around the world who grieve the loss of this great American leader and patriot. Today we give Colin Luther Powell back to the God who gave him to us. While we mourn his death, our faith tells us that there is indeed life beyond the grave and that God never lets us go. So as the old prayer says, we gather to give thanks for all the goods and courage that have passed through Colin Powell's life into the lives of others. For his loyalty to his country and his love of the good, and for all those noble qualities of mind and soul that endeared him to so many.
lived a life of service, and he was a great blessing to all who knew him. In the words of St. Paul, he fought the good fight and he kept the faith. May the God of love bless him and keep him now and always. Thank you.
Byron Pitts, apologies for taking a moment for that service, as we'll do repeatedly here, but you were speaking to Alma and this family of faith.
Yes, a longtime Sunday school teacher, General Powell, his wife also active in church, and David, I wonder what's on her mind, her spirit at this hour. It was exactly 60 years ago this month that Colin Powell and Alma met on a blind date in Back Bay, Boston. The general describes how he was struck instantly by her beautiful green eyes, and he was in love. Alma, for her part, not so much. She thought it was too thin with a baby face. But less than a year later, they were married. And David, you mentioned earlier about her concerns about his safety in running for president. Be mindful that this is a couple that came of age during the dark days of Jim Crow America. Segregation, and many of those fears were real. They were Negroes in 1960s America who had to do the dangerous dance of what it meant to be black at that time. The general talked about how when they were based in Fort Benning, Georgia, on base he was addressed as sir, given respect. But when he went off base to downtown Columbus, Georgia, he dare not look a white woman in the eye. This couple, the life they were able to build together, the things they were able to achieve together as a couple. Colin Powell often said, for all the powerful people he met, that woman there, she was his rock.
She was indeed, and beside her, her daughter Linda, her son Michael, and his wife, and we saw Ann Powell arrive with her husband, his children and grandchildren, of course, lived very large in his life. And again, I mentioned that tribute expected shortly here from Richard Armitage. Here he is, the friend who spoke with General Powell every day for many decades.
Well, good afternoon. I'm going to break protocol just a little bit and acknowledge Alma Powell, Michael and Jane Powell, Linda Powell, Anne Marie, and Francis Lyons, and the grandchildren. We're here for your father, your husband, your granddaddy, and quite a turnout it is. If I may, President Biden, Dr. Biden, thank you very much for your attendance, particularly after the arduous trip. President Obama, Mrs. Obama, thank you so much for being here. And thank you for leading our nation for 8 years with wit, wisdom, and dignity. And President and Mrs. Bush, thank you so much for being here. You led our nation through the horror of 9/11, did not let us take counsel of our fears, and brought us out the other side of this war on terror. Thank you. And Mrs. Clinton. So what do I say? Do I say First Lady? Or do I say Secretary Clinton? Or Senator Clinton? I think I just content myself by saying we thank you for your years of service to our nation, and you know of Colin's affection for you. Eleanor Roosevelt wrote, if at the end one can say, this man used to the limit the powers that God granted him. He was worthy of love and respect and of the sacrifices of many people, made in order that he might achieve what he deemed to be his task. Then that life has been lived well and there are no regrets. Does that sound like somebody you know? Seems like the husband, the father, and the grandfather of the Powell family right here. People ask me, how did you develop a 40-year friendship with Secretary Powell, General Powell? Well, then it was Colonel Powell. Well, you had two disgruntled, multi-tour combat vets who were not happy with the way we conducted the war, certainly not happy with the way we left. And delighted to be part of a new administration which was coming in to develop not only the weapon systems we needed, but redevelop the morale that our nation needed so much. So that was a natural bonding thing. One day I asked General Powell, I think he was a major general at the time, I said, what's the secret to leadership? How do you know a good leader? He said, well, you see some people and they look great. They look strapped in the uniform. But the fact of the matter is that they can't lead a horse to water. There are other people who look like an unmade bed, and yet they can lead people anywhere. And he said the trait I guess you'd want to see in a leader is someone whose troops would follow him or her anywhere. Anywhere. But if only out of curiosity, and somebody who would follow him and her just to see where the heck he's going. Asked General Powell one day what he learned in the Army. What's the most important thing he learned? He said, most important thing he learned was in ROTC when he learned about the first general order, which cautions a sentry to take charge of this post, all government property in sight, and stand this post until properly relieved. But in his interpretation, that didn't mean you stood at the PX, which was warm, a lot of friendly faces going by. Yeah, you did that. That was part of your duty. But how about the motor pool? And how about the repair shops? They're part of your duty, too. You don't get to pick and choose what you like better. And he extended it to people. He would say, I extend the first general order to people. So we're all human. Some people we like better than others, but if you're in charge, you can't show it. And Colin would always end that comment by saying, we all need to treat everyone with a little bit more kindness than we think they deserve, because we don't know what's going on in their lives. I'm going to quickly throw out 3 anecdotes for you. This is a celebration. It's a celebration of a life. And I want to kind of fill that picture of Colin Powell out a little bit. And I'm going to try to tie together sense of humor, his insatiable curiosity, and his comfort in his own skin. One day I was upstairs in the Pentagon, 2 floors above then Chairman Powell, and he buzzed me and asked, could I come down? Sure. I'll be right down. So I go down the 2 flights of stairs into his office. Nancy Hughes, who was at the door, she said, go right on in. They're expecting you. Well, I wasn't expecting them, but I went on in and there was a boombox playing. There was a circle of very tall gentlemen. That also General Powell. It was a Harlem. And the boombox was playing Sweet Georgia Brown. And they were passing them all around. And I'm not unfamiliar with a basketball court, like when I could really walk. I wouldn't say run, but really walk. So they asked me to join the circle. I did. But every time one of the Globetrotters would pass the ball to Secretary Powell, he'd fumble it. He'd drop it. It would fall to the floor. So finally, one of the Globetrotters switched off the boombox and said, Bro Pete, what's up with you? We throw you the ball and you drop it. And without a grin, without a grimace, he looked straight at that Globetrotter and said, while you were out shooting hoops, I was stealing hubcaps. Globetrotter said that was all right. Flicked the box back on. It was Sweet Georgia Brown time again. I said he had an insatiable curiosity. Nothing made Secretary Powell happier than to sneak away from his security detail. Does that sound familiar to anyone here? And when he do it in the State Department, it would generally be followed by a call to me on the cell saying, I'm free. I broke out. And then he'd tell me where he was, because it wouldn't be long before security would go crazy. Well, this day found him down in the parking lot of the State Department. It was a huge underground parking lot. And he walked up to an attendant who, by the way, I'm not sure knew that this was the Secretary of State. And the Secretary said, I've always wondered something. How do you figure out who gets in the front row or the second row, which means you can egress roughly on the time you thought you were going to egress, and who gets in the back row? Because that'll take you 40 minutes. I said, it's very easy. He said, people come in and say, good morning, or it's snowing out there, or traffic is bad today. We put them in the front row, the second row. If they come in with a window wound up, won't look right or left, just right on past, 40 minutes, and then they can get out. They'll be in the back row. This nugget was so enlightening to Secretary Powell that he made bold to ask about certain members of the hierarchy in the State Department. You'll have to guess. I'm not going to tell you who. The majority of them got through with first and second row, but a couple actually ended up time and again in the back row. Well, the third anecdote that I was going to say had to do with Secretary Powell, General Powell, colon, CP, however you knew him, as Secretary of State. And visiting Foreign Minister from Sweden, Anna Lindh, was in. So she came in with her entourage, so the secretaries were very well appointed office. And she knew of Secretary Powell's affection for ABBA, and she knew of Secretary Powell's affection for Volvo. So she opened up a full CD set of ABBA and presented it to him. Colin immediately went down on one knee and sang the entire Mamma Mia to a very amused foreign minister from Sweden and to a gobsmacked U.S. delegation who had never seen anything like it. Well, our tastes in music were not very similar, except for one, what Colin's and mine, except for one. Every Saturday afternoon at 5 o'clock, we would listen to WPFW in Washington. This is radio. This is People's Radio. Don't tell anybody who investigates us for security clearances, because this is Liberation Radio, if you will. There was a show at 5 o'clock in the afternoon hosted by Mr. Von Martin, and it's called Caribbeana. And that's one thing the two of us really like, whether it's Bob Marley and the Wailers, and we'll hear more about that later, Iggy Marley, the Swallow, any number of people. So we really had great one music taste. Cohen loved the church. He loved the ceremony. He loved the liturgy. He loved the high hymns. This made him extremely happy. And as poor Alma knows, every day at 7 or 7:05, I would call him or he'd call me. We'd get our days ready, except on Sunday. On Sunday, I'd call at 9:30, and he would answer the same way every Sunday. He said, oh yes, I was at church, and I want you to know I'm in the state of grace. And I would answer the same way every Sunday. Home, if you're not in the state of grace, who among us is? That was every day for almost 40 years, the same opening remarks. Well, I grew up in the South, and my taste in hymns is a little different from Secretary Powell's. And my favorite hymn is one by the Reverend F.C. Barnes. He sings it with his wife, and it's called Coming Up on the Rough Side of the Mountain. It's got 3 verses and 2 choruses. I'm just going to submit you to the 3rd verse. This old race will soon be over. There'll be no more race to run. And I will stand before God's throne. All my heartaches will be gone. I'll hear my Savior say, welcome home. Be real quiet. Listen real carefully. And you might hear our Savior say, colon, welcome home. And here's your starry crown. And finally, it's a message to Alma and the kids. He's a very busy father, very busy husband, huge responsibility. As I say, I've talked to him once, sometimes 15 times a day for 40 years. Never in 40 years do I recall his ever failing to either start or end his day by telling what Alma was doing, what Michael and Jane were doing, what Linda was doing, what Anne Marie and Francis were doing, what the grandkids were doing. And the reason I mention this is because I think as a husband, as a father, as a friend, I don't think we share often enough how we really feel with our family. Sometimes I think we take it for granted. But I want you to know that he didn't take it for granted. Every morning or evening, I heard about it. So God bless Colin, God bless the Powell family, and God bless us all. Thank you.
What a beautifully personal tribute from former Deputy Secretary of State Richard Armitage, dear friend of Colin Powell's. They spoke every day. And he talked about those conversations, but as you heard at the end there, he talked about how every single time he spoke of his wife Alma and what the kids were up to former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright now provides a tribute, and she of course broke barriers too, as the first woman in that role.
President Biden, President Obama, President Bush, Secretary Clinton, distinguished leaders and guests, my heart is sad, for I have lost a friend. Alma, Michael, Linda, and Anne Marie, the remarkable Powell family, I'm grateful to you for inviting me to share my thoughts in this hour of celebration and remembrance. In 1993, when I began serving as America's ambassador to the UN, General Colin Powell was already in his final months as chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. At White House meetings, I came equipped with a yellow pad. He brought a laser pointer and an array of multicolored slides. I wore a pin. He wore a lot of medals. I was a mere mortal female civilian. In the wake of Operation Desert Storm, he was the hero of the Western world. On policy, the general and I didn't always reach the same conclusions, and in fact, he would later recount that one of my comments almost gave him an aneurysm. Although we were the same age, he and I were shaped by different experiences and had different ideas and represented different departments. But over the past quarter century, we also became very close friends, an experience I know that I have in common with many of you. The reason is that beneath that glossy exterior of warrior statesman was one of the gentlest and most decent people any of us will ever meet. As I grew to know him, I came to view Colin Powell as a figure who almost transcended time, for his virtues were Homeric: honesty, dignity, loyalty, and an unshakable commitment to his calling and word. These were the same traits he sought tirelessly to instill in the soldiers under his command, the diplomats he led, the colleagues with whom he worked, the readers of his books, the audiences that flocked to his speeches, the students of the Powell School for Civic and Global Leadership, and the thousands of young people who benefited from the America's Promise Alliance that Alma and he championed. He relished the opportunity to connect with other generations. And it's always the right time, he told us, and I quote, to reach out to someone who's wanting to look up, and to each in our own way to help put that fellow American on the road to success. A first-rate listener, and in government the ultimate team player, Colin was nevertheless always true to himself. He could not be moved by any threat or tempting promise to depart from what he felt was right. He had a code instilled by his immigrant parents, honed by Army tradition, and nurtured by more than half a century of marriage. He was also guided by a conscience that, unlike many, never slept. Colin was incredibly cool. People in public life tend to hyperventilate. We open our mouths and the superlatives just gush forth. Greatest, worst, the biggest deal ever, the biggest disaster ever, as if each issue offered a choice between utopia and perdition. Over the decades, I sat in many meetings with Colin where I could almost hear his eyes roll. When it was his turn to speak, He was brilliant at bringing over the moon claims down to earth and distilling what truly mattered from what did not. His effectiveness was magnified by his lack of interest in racking up partisan debating points or improving how macho he could be as a negotiator. He cared only about achieving results, and somehow, through the strength of his personality, he made pragmatism charismatic. Colin Powell's service to the country he loved will long survive his passing, from rescuing fellow soldiers while in combat, to presiding over the rollback of aggression in the Middle East, to orchestrating after 9/11 a global alliance against Al-Qaeda, to modernizing the practice of diplomacy. He devoted the full measure of his energy and skills to advancing national interests and to the common good. And he did so in the right way, which is why the Army loved him, why his adversaries respected him, and why within the State Department he was far more popular than his predecessor. I remember the day his nomination as Secretary of State was announced, because Colin drove himself, having escaped his service, over to my house so we could begin planning a smooth transition. Amid the rancor over the 2000 election, he was determined to set the right example. There's a photo taken a few days later which shows him arriving at the State Department, and we're laughing and on the cusp of a warm embrace. I treasure that picture because it captures our relationship and had grown from one of mutual respect to one of mutual affection. It did help that we both had a sense of humor. In his memoir, he recalled that during one session on Bosnia, where I was advocating the use of force, he had felt compelled to explain to me patiently the military's proper role. When the book came out, he sent me a copy inscribed, "Patiently yours, Colin." And when I replied, I signed my note of thanks, "Forcefully yours, Madeline." In time, we really did become the closest of friends, traveling together for speeches, trading frequent phone calls, and having lunch at his beloved Cafe Oji. We talked a lot about our gratitude to the country, our pride in our families, and our distaste of aging. He offered me plenty of advice. The last time I saw him, he instructed me to count each step in order to avoid tripping or falling down the stairs. I now do that several times a day, and each time I think of Colin. This morning, my heart aches because we've lost a friend, and our nation one of its finest and most loyal soldiers. Yet even as we contemplate the magnitude of our loss, we can almost hear a familiar voice asking us, no, commanding us to stop feeling sad, to turn our gaze